Welcome to Ask Psych Sessions with Marianne Lloyd, where we ask some of the best teachers we know questions from you, our audience. If you have a question or an idea for a conversation, please visit bit.ly/AskPsychSessions. That's bit.ly/AskPsychSessions. All one word, all lowercase. And here's our next question.
I am speaking with Karen Eifler from the University of Portland. Thanks for joining us today, Karen.
I'm glad to be with you, Marianne.
So to be totally transparent, I wanted to speak to you because I heard you speak at a conference several years ago about the idea of trying to move into a place more of wonder with our professional lives. And this is coming out as our new fall semester is kicking off for a lot of people. And for many of us, it's again not going to be maybe how it seems we like to be, which is in the classroom with our students. So I thought it might be helpful to get some strategies or some tips, and you were the first person that I thought to talk with. So you want to get us started with something in that realm?
Okay. Well, I'm all about reframing. And one of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently is that if you can't beat them, join them. So the pandemic isn't going away. We can't wish any of the quarantine and all of those disruptions away. So is there a way to kind of reframe this disruption to our lives as some kind of a gift? And I think that if you took an attitude of trying to find what is the grace or the giftedness in this disruption, I think you wouldn't have to dig around too much to find it. And I could see that translating pretty well into the preparation that we all do for our courses. One is kind of what Dr. Spock, not the Vulcan, but the child psychologist, famously told parents is, you know more than you think that you do. I haven't spoken to a single colleague who went through the abrupt pivot to online instruction who didn't feel like they had somehow let down their students. And yet, as we've been looking at our course evals, on the one hand, we were really grateful that they weren't going to be counted toward rank and tenure if we didn't want them to this time. But what we found was the students were not just incredibly forgiving, but that they were so grateful for the effort that was really apparent from their teachers to not to duplicate the experience that they were used to in the classrooms face to face, but that they really recognized and named that their professors were standing on their heads, metaphorically, possibly for real in some cases, we'll never know. But standing on their heads to make the content come alive and to be interactive and excited about what they were doing. And so as I think about approaching the coming semester with an attitude of wonder and possibly even gratitude for the disruption, I'll contrast it with our typical approach in August when we're getting together again, which I often call one downsmanship. And one downsmanship, which everybody will recognize, even if they don't know the word yet, is what often greets us in a normal summer, where we get back together and someone will say, "How was your summer?" And somebody will say, "Oh, you had a summer? I had to teach summer school and I didn't get any of my writing done." "Oh, you got writing done? You're so lucky. I had to work on house projects and wasn't able to get anything done." "Oh, you got to do house projects? You're so lucky. My son moved back and I had to deal with his wedding planning and he's marrying a real bridezilla." "Oh, your son is getting married? You're so lucky. My son moved back into our basement and I'm pretty sure he's going to die alone there." And the idea of one downsmanship is that everybody has to show that they had it really, really hard. And we get really afraid somehow somehow we're lesser if we say, I loved eating red popsicles with my kids, and I loved watching cloud formations, or just I loved the change in rhythm that summer gave us, even if I was working my keister off, teaching summer school, or getting writing done, or finishing up a chapter, or writing grant proposals. What a tremendous gift to be in a profession where we think and write and read for a living and get to share that with other people. And so I think that one of the things I've become aware of now that the immediate fear and paralysis of the pivot to online instruction is over is, I mean, I've been teaching since the earth was cooling, and the old tricks simply do not work online. They don't transfer at all. And so I have been thinking recently about the fact that I need to develop all new tricks, and how fun is that to be to be in a job where that's the challenge before me. Is I still get to teach Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, but I can't use it. I can't engage in a football game with students in a class, which is the way that I had done it forever. But I still want that vital concept to make sense. And because for me, I feel like that's the most important concept that I teach. I have spent a lot of time and imagination combing through activities and thinking about ways to make that come alive. And that's been kind of fun. And I've loved that kind of a stretch. So I don't know if that's exactly what you mean by wonder, but I think to have an attitude of wonder begins with an attitude of being able to reframe tough circumstances that you cannot change into an opportunity to do things that you never thought were possible. And even things like realizing that students can hear a smile in your voice, and so if you want to communicate joy or contentment or happiness, simply smiling while you're talking makes a humongous difference in what students hear in this new forum. That was a long rambling answer. I hope there was something coherent in there.
Yeah, I heard lots of important nuggets. One that, I have retained my, at least being aware if I feel myself in danger of one downmanship. But I like this idea that to see this as a fresh opportunity to think about how we're approaching material so that we can still hit the goals that we want to hit, but do it in a way that's appropriate, and that is new and exciting, and that wouldn't be true in every type of career. And I think that is one of, not only, I often think about how my students change, and I get to, I certainly miss some of my favorites, but it's nice to be constantly meeting new people and hearing their stories. But this idea that I also have this chance to refresh and reset is a very positive way to be thinking about this challenging time.
I mean, that's always been true, that we're in a profession, if you're in a semester system, that every 14 weeks you get to reboot and you get to say, next semester is going to be different. That's a tremendous gift. And now we can lay on this other layer, I guess, of acquiring these new skills and thinking how much we know now that we didn't know 2 months ago. I mean, 2 months ago, we are in day 62 of the quarantine. That is not very much time at all. And how much are we going to know 2 months from now? I just think I can't change things. So choosing to see that as a joyful challenge to be overcome and imagine my way through, and to realize I'm not doing this on my own, that there is a community of people who want to solve these problems. And I think that the gift of being able to say, I don't know what I'm doing. How do you make Zoom not freeze? How do you make it so that you can do breakout rooms. How do you close caption things? How do you upload documents? I mean, to be able to say that and to know that there's a community who, these are not dumb questions. These are, I have generous colleagues. I think most of us have really generous colleagues and people who might quietly be turning into rock stars for the technical expertise that they have and the new ways of imagining this enterprise of teaching that we do that perhaps might have been overlooked had the circumstances not changed so drastically. But we have a whole new cadre at my university of junior faculty in some cases and well-seasoned faculty in others who know what they're doing and have figured out things and who have been, just as I said, incredibly generous with not hoarding what they know, but sharing it with one another. And I think those are habits that are going to serve us really well when we are on the other side of all of this.
So maybe taking it back to the very beginning, what you just said made me think, like, if I want to sort of feel that space of wonder, that sort of maybe necessitates that I'm willing to be in the space of being vulnerable and not knowing and realizing I don't know, right? Because then I'm probably not going to feel wonder about things that are really familiar. It's going to be from something that's new. Yes?
Absolutely. It's non-negotiable. And it is, as you say, a place of vulnerability. And what professor wants to admit that they don't know something? I mean, so we might be the last class of people on the planet that anybody would expect to engage in wonder, but it's what drew us into our, if not the vocation of teaching, it at least drew us into our content areas. We fell in love with something and we engaged in a long discipline in a single direction, to quote Nietzsche and Bono, which I hardly ever get to do. I mean, people give up a lot to be PhD biologists and PhD psychologists and PhD statisticians. They have a lot of options with all that cognitive horsepower, and they chose the doctoral route. And that began with a kind of wonder. And I think to recapture it, it's sort of like any marriage counselor worth her salt. Why did you fall in love in the first place? And I think that where we are now is a time, it's just a natural reset button to look at what our defaults are and to just go out on a limb. That's, as Mark Twain always said, that's where the fruit is. And we've been given this opportunity. And I say carpe wonder, and admit that you don't know.
Great. Well, I am going to double down on my efforts to do that. Thank you so much for chatting today, Karen. This was very helpful and for my perspective, and I think it will be for our listeners as well. And I hope that all of you listening get to start your semester with a bit more wonder.
Thanks. Bye now, Marianne.